Hey guys, FunnyGuyTimmy here. This isn't going to be like my normal kind of video. This isn't going to be, usual voiceover or anything like that. But this is kind of a topic that has come up many times. Multiple times on this channel, I've said that I was going to be moving to LA. And multiple times in my life, I have made plans to move to LA. I've gone to LA, I've visited friends, I've talked to them, like, hey, do you think this is a good fit for me? I went around and I looked at apartments and I looked at houses and I just did as much as I could to find out what's the difference in cost of living from where I live right now in LA, and I was all ready to go, but every single time I didn't want to. I seriously had doubts, not in myself, not in my skills, that wasn't the problem, but doubts that LA was actually even a good fit anymore, or even a good place to move to in order to move forward with a career. And this was before Harvey Weinstein, okay? This was before that. And this was before, a lot of the things that have come up recently. But I can say that that's kind of part of it. I already knew about a lot of that stuff. I already knew about the corruption. I already knew about the big business. I already knew about how every major studio just makes franchises and they don't care about the quality and they just shuck them out and it's just to make money, and how quality is dropping. But I also knew about producers and their role and how they've ruined a lot of filmmaking and how they've ruined a lot of movies nowadays, and how they're actually really, really stressful. And that was kind of an environment that I really didn't want to put myself in. Not that, once I went to LA, I was just going to be met by all kinds of producers and directors and everyone wanted to work with me. That's not what it was at all. I've worked on a few commercials. And every single time I've worked on a commercial, the producers, the company people, the people that sign the checks are always there. And they're always looming. And they're just always just like over the director's shoulder. And it often ended up being incredibly stressful for the actors, incredibly stressful for the directors, and incredibly stressful for the crew. They're the ones who are reminding people that they're on a tight deadline. And it's their job, kind of, but at the same time, it really puts just a box, a very small box that everyone can work in. And yes, show business is incredibly stressful, and it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be easy for anybody. But it's gotten really bad. It's gotten really worse than it used to be. It used to be hard because, there were talented people that you were trying to get up to their level. But now it's incredibly difficult because, if you're not right for the brand or the franchise or the image or, what the market wants, no matter how good you are, you're probably not going to make it. Here's what a producer is supposed to do. Let's say, a company wanted to, let's take Sony for an example, because I think we have some really good bad examples of Sony. So Sony wanted to make a Spider-Man movie. They want to keep the Spider-Man franchise. So they go out and they find a producer. They find someone who has a lot of connections, has been in the business for a long time, to give a large amount of money, normally like $500 million nowadays for big blockbusters, possibly more, possibly less, but let's just say $500 million. So they give this money to the producer, $500 million. This is what you have to use in order to make a film. And your goal as a producer is to bring money back into the company. You're supposed to make a profit. That's your only job. That's the only job of a producer. That's your one thing. You're not supposed to, create a good film, actually. You're not even supposed to make a good film. You're supposed to make money. Which, yes, there is a difference nowadays. You can have a terrible movie actually make money. Or a mediocre movie make tons of money. You can keep, like, for example, the Beauty and the Beast movie, when they remade it into live action, it was essentially the exact same film as the cartoon. The cartoon was fine. The cartoon was great. But they wanted to redo it in live action, and from my opinion, I've seen it, and in my opinion, it actually doesn't, it's not as good. I like a couple of the songs. The songs are really good. It is nice seeing a live action version, but everyone looked almost exactly the way they do in the cartoon, just with a little bit more detail. And it was the exact same story. It starts and ends basically the exact same way. There was no real reason to have this movie, but it made a lot of money, even though it technically isn't that good of a movie. It's not original. It's the same thing. But it made lots of money. And that's a producer's job, is to make more money. The director's job is completely different than the producer. The director's job is to direct the film, is to have a vision, come up with a vision. Either they're the one who wrote the script, or they read the script, imagined it in their head, and it's now their job to work the strings to get the people to put in front of everybody what they visualized in their head. And they go and talk to the concept artist, they talk to the props, they talk to the set design, the costumes, they work on the storyboard, and they put it all together. They get everybody together, and they go out and they have, talk to their people, and they do the casting for the actors, and they get, and they're like, oh, that's exactly what I had in mind. This guy nailed it. This guy's perfect to work with. This person really gets my vision. They're great to work with. They're talented. That's it. A producer, this is how they would do it if they were casting. A producer would go, they're famous. We're going to bring them in on this project. Regardless of interview, regardless of audition, they're just going to say, that person is famous. That person has a lot of fans. Let's bring them in on the project, which is kind of more or less what happened with Ghost in the Shell. I'm not saying that, she's not talented. Not saying that Scarlett Johansson isn't talented. I'm not saying that Scarlett Johansson didn't do a good job in the film. But the producers would pick her over others, even if they auditioned and they knocked it out of the park. But because Scarlett Johansson is an American, she has a really good fan base, she's great in action films, she's good looking, and she is basically perfect for the demographic. The demographic was America, and most of America is white. That is the sad reality of how that works. I'm not saying that that's how she got the role. I'm not saying that that's why they did that. But that's how a producer would approach that. They would go, this person is popular, this is the demographic, that's where we're going, we're going to try to bring in that fan base, we want their money, even if it's not great, even if they're not the most talented person that we could possibly find. And that's been happening more and more lately. And a producer shouldn't be involved in the audition. The producer shouldn't really have anything to do. The producer hires the director, maybe the writer, the cinematographer. They find the studios, like Weta Workshops and stuff like that, because they're the guys who have to sign out the checks. But they're not really supposed to be involved in the creative element. And what's been happening lately is they've been getting more and more involved in the creative element, because they're trying to make sure that everything is mathematically perfect, the perfect storm for money, basically. And what's happening is, even though the director is really, really wanting to go in this direction, they really want to, hire this actor, or go with this script, or shoot in this location. The producer is now just getting over their heads and going, no, we need to go with this person because of this, even though they're not disqualified. We need to have this script because it has these elements that seem to be popular nowadays, even though it's cliche and shit. And we need to have, you know, these things and that thing because it'll sell toys and video games and stuff like that. And that's ruining the market. And I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I didn't want to be involved in that. I didn't want to approach that. This whole Star Wars thing, I think there's been like 2 directors, not just 2, but I think it's 3, but 2 of them were working on one film and one of them working on another one. I think one of them was going to be working on episode 9 and the other 2 were working on the Han Solo film, and they just backed out. They backed out because the producer, Kennedy, something like that, has been just over everybody's heads and changing everything they've been doing, and they're not letting artistic people be artistic, and they're not letting writers be writers, and they're not letting directors be directors, and they're just overshadowing, crossing bounds, and it's becoming incredibly stressful. And this isn't just the large blockbusters anymore. I thought it was, but this is also kind of happening in more of the independent area. Not entirely independent, but somewhat independent area. You know, the further up you go, the worse it gets, sure, but you're starting to see that kind of mentality, that kind of really trying to make money instead of a good product, which creating a good product will bring you money. And it's incredibly frustrating. And I don't want to just be an actor. I also want to be a writer, and I also want to, you know, dabble in directing and voice acting and own my own studio. And LA is not the place to do that anymore. That's not the way it's seeming to me, at least. It seems like it's a very, you have to do it their way or no way. And because of that, I decided to stay here. I decided to, basically, this is now where I'm going to create my studio. This is where I'm going to branch out. This is where I'm going to do my writing. This is where I'm going to break into the industry, even though I don't like the industry. Yeah, so there is no more moving to LA anytime in my future, unless they get their act together, but they're not going to. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. This was kind of boring. I was hoping that it wouldn't be, but even I can feel it. I can feel it. I know. I apologize. I'm sorry. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions on this topic or anything involving writing, directing, acting, voice acting, impressions, microphones, anything like that, leave them down in the comment section below. And until next time, peace.